First thing on the docket for TNA, Mr. TNA from TNA Mecca blogged this week about the recent changes to the Impact Live shows. He said, quote, "The trend started with Destination X back in July in Louisville. The next live Impact had the hook of the identity of the man behind the August 1 warning, followed by Hardcore Justice, and then this past Thursday's Must Win Impact, and then now we're going to have No Surrender in 2 weeks. It looks from the outside that TNA has adapted the mindset that for every single live Impact, which is usually every other week, they want it to feel different. And if it continues, this could be a great philosophy to increase interest in the product." So the question I have for you, Rob, is should they continue to do this? Do you think it's been good for their live TV product to have a, quote, theme every single time they're out there?
Well, yeah, I think so. I mean, granted, the attendance figures are kind of hurting at the moment, but it's going to take a while to build up a solid fan base for fans to get used to TNA traveling and doing live shows and whatnot. And by giving it a theme in the short term, you're going to help increase. You're going to help draw people in. Obviously, you can't keep doing that forever. There's going to reach a point where you're going to have to rely on the product itself. But
well, Rob, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you right there. It's still the product. It's still the TNA product. They're just wrapping it in a colorful, paper and a bow and handing it to us, covered in chocolate and nuts.
Yeah, but at the same point in time, you're going to have to, yeah, I almost did something that I hate doing.
Was it saying that you like Batista?
No.
Was it a reference point? Was that what you were trying to come up with?
No, I almost did what I'm always saying you can't do, and that is comparing TNA to WWE. But eventually, I mean, yes, giving the product plus a little something extra is good, but eventually TNA is going to have to get to a point where they can just sit back and say, here's Impact. No bells, no whistles, nothing fancy. Here's what we're bringing to the table. Enjoy. But in the short term, I think the themes will help, as long as they do a good job as picking said theme and then executing that theme.
Yeah, Rob, the only problem I have with that is everything you're describing they've been doing. They've been trying to stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, if you go back to Destination X in July, that's essentially 5 months of TNA doing this new long stretch between the pay-per-view type of thing. It wasn't.
How many months was it until
5?
July?
All right, if you want to count July.
What? Are you all right? You've been smoking.
Go ahead,
Anyway,
continue. I'm sorry.
It depends on whether or not you want to say January was the first month. Remember, we said we really can't.
You said July. You said
yeah,
start in July. Start in July is what you said. Right.
No, if you want to, okay. Before Destination X, the entire stretch before that, Rob, they were essentially doing what you were talking about.
Right.
It wasn't really working for them. I mean, that was something that Lee and I talked about a few weeks ago, where their ratings weren't really all. I mean, they weren't improving all that much.
Don't steal my point. Don't steal my point.
Ratings aren't going to improve because you're stuck on Spike TV. No matter what they do, they're going to pull in the same general ratings week after
Not
week
necessarily.
after week.
Who else was on Spike TV? I seem to remember someone important being on Spike TV a few years ago.
Yeah, when Hulk and Bischoff signed.
You mean UFC, who left because they weren't getting that much exposure?
No, that wasn't. No, I wasn't.
And they went to a bigger.
I'm talking about WWE.
Yeah, and WWE left and went to USA for many of the same reasons that eventually.
I'm pretty sure WWE didn't get a 1.0 rating every week on Spike TV. I'm pretty sure. I'll check, but I'm pretty sure.
regardless of what the
yeah.
ratings are.
Well, no. You cannot not talk about the ratings if you're talking about increasing interest in the product. That is
Okay.
ratings, essentially.
All right, Lee. Then what's your point on this? Rob's saying that it's good to bring in short term. It's not a long term solution. Do you think that's the case?
Well, it's an enjoyable show. The Bound for Glory series is so screwed up, it's unbelievable. We'll get to that later. But it's a good fun show, but it's not bringing any more viewers, is it? Look at the rate. It's not brought in anybody. Like
Viewers.
they're not losing viewers. What? They range from 0.9 to something like 1.0 every week in ratings. And this might bore the shit out of some people, but at the end of the day, that's who's watching the product.
Right.
So how is it increasing?
I'm not saying they're increasing viewers. I'm just saying they're not. It's not like they're having a huge drop off in viewers too.
But you've just said that this is going to increase ratings.
It might. And I'm
But it
not talking. And I'm not talking necessarily about just ratings. I'm not just talking about people watching on TV. I'm talking about people actually getting up off of their asses
Streaming
and
it.
going to the stadium and going, whether it's the Impact Zone, whether it's wherever TNA happens to be that day, and watching it live in person.
Did you know, by the way? Did you know that TNA are actually launching? You know, when they come over here, do you know how much TNA are charging for a VIP package over here? $1,000.
Oh yeah, and they get away with it. TNA
I can go to WrestleMania for that.
TNA does much better overseas than they do here in the States for some reason, especially in the UK. TNA seems to be huge in the United Kingdom.
It's on free to air here, though. Anybody can watch it here. Anybody.
Yeah, but I'm also talking like when the figures come in as to people who actually paid for tickets and everything. You have many more people in England that go to watch TNA than you do here in the States.
Yeah, but that's because we get it once a year, and tickets are on sale about 5 months in advance.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you limit the availability a huge amount, of course you're going to get a bigger response.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, Garv, what do you think?
Overall, I think it's an unneeded gimmick. That once again we're going to see exactly what they did with the X Division, where they put the X Division through this. Every single match has to be this triple threat match. They're going to get through this, whatever this experiment is, and then realize it didn't do what they thought it was going to do. I can't really see them continuing at this pace to have. I mean, it's. Don't get me wrong. It's great that TNA is trying to make it feel like every week on Impact there's something new and it's important. But at the end of the day, it's just an unnecessary thing. Like, No Surrender is this 2-week span, and the previous 2-week span is Hardcore Justice, and there's just too much going on that it's almost as if they're depending on that name recognition instead of telling good stories.
The thing I have, though, Garb, I gotta be honest, I kind of like this. I like the idea of every single Impact is something new, something exciting, that if you miss it, you miss something. And TNA, when they moved to the 4 pay-per-views a year, there were a lot of great IPs or the themes or whatever you want to describe them that they were no longer using, like No Surrender, like Destination X, like Hardcore Justice, that weren't going to be utilized in a full pay-per-view environment. So why not take some of those and cycle them into shows?
Because they aren't cycling them in like a way that it's as if they're just trying to fill between now and Bound for Glory with all of these names instead of spacing it out like an actual pay-per-view, like once a month have a special event. Instead, it's like every week is another event title.
And if you do it every week, it loses its value if you do it every week as well. Like it's
the novelty wears off.
It will. It's too gimmicky. You need to just have a normal show once in a while, just to calm things down and just relax.
Now, we've gone back and forth, and we all agree that what TNA has been trying right now isn't working. As Lee and others have pointed out, and I'll concede this point too. The ratings are not going up. Granted, you can't. Granted, 1.0 isn't horrible given the rating space of Spike TV, but TNA was consistently pulling in 1.2, 1.3 not all that long ago, so they are dropping down a little bit. So the problem I think that needs to be addressed here is we see TNA trying all of this stuff. What do they do to improve the product? I mean, because like Harrison pointed out, TNA is doing everything that we've been telling them they need to do, and it's not working.
So then stop listening to us.
Yeah. Stop
What the
listening
hell do we know?
Stop listening
That
to us.
problem solved.
But you started to answer the question, Lee. What are your thoughts on this, man?
My thoughts.
Yeah. Do you have any idea?
Discussions about professional
I
wrestling.
missed my name. I missed my name. I'm sorry, I missed my name totally. No, I just think now that granted we've been telling them to do different things, and the last year they've done different things. They've changed shit round. They've had a massive controversial shit last few months. But at the end of the day, you look back last year. This time last year, I'm just having a look now. Impact scored a 1.07 rating last year for the exact show they did this time last year, and this year they did 0.99. There's no movement in that, So all the things that we've advised them to do, or all the things that everybody else they've changed around, effectively, at the end of the day, it's not really done. In fact, it's done nothing really. I mean, let's be honest. It's not got them to where they want to go.
Right.
It's not drawn a lot either, which is disappointing.
Well, that's a fair point, but let's move on.